Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Josh Brown here. Folks, I'm really excited for this interview. This is one of my favorite interviews. I've done over almost 200 or over 200 episodes. I don't know the exact count, but interviewed lots of great people. But today I'm interviewing Masha Malka, and you may not have heard of her, but she's a successful entrepreneur, best-selling author, international speaker, mentor to thousands of people. She's a ballroom dancer who's won ballroom competitions. She is a tremendous person with a tremendous amount of achievements. And she's also a Jewish refugee whose family had to flee or did flee from the former Soviet Union to try to make a better life for themselves. And really, my interview with her today is it's inspiring, it's touching to hear her story, her journey, her family's journey, and then on top of that, all of the success that she's had, that she's worked for, that she's made, coming to the U.S. initially and not speaking a lick of English, and now to be as successful as she is really a tremendous story that I think all of you will benefit from. And she told me this after the interview. This is a kind of modesty that she carries about her, that she says, I also just recently learned that I made the Forbes Council of Coaches, which is this exclusive list of coaches that Forbes identifies. I said, oh, why didn't you mention that on the show? And she said, I just didn't want to feel like I was, bragging on myself. I said, well, I'm going to brag on you in this introduction. So that's really cool. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman, a tremendous person. And without further ado, please enjoy this interview with Masha Malka. So all the way from Spain, we've got Masha Malka on the line here on the podcast here, and I'm thrilled to speak with you today. How you doing?
Hi, Josh. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. It's nice to be here with you, far away across the ocean.
I know, but you sound like you're right next door, so that's the important thing. Well, it's so funny because I was telling you before we started recording that, I get a lot of people who will reach out to come onto the show, and a lot of coaches who come onto the show. Obviously, you're a coach. But what kind of drew me to you and it really resonated was, man, your backstory and everything that you've had to overcome in your life, and you're a refugee, and then going from overcoming that, and then also obviously building up from nothing ostensibly to now being as successful as you've been. I just think it's a powerful story in and of itself. So thank you so much for reaching out and coming on.
Thank you, Josh. I just wanted to say I am a coach, but I'm a coach as well as few other things. I'm an entrepreneur. I launched a business which I ran for a few years, mainly because I started when I was coaching, and I liked coaching executives and leaders. I wanted to understand very well what they go through, their issues, and I wanted to experience it firsthand. And I think a good coach is somebody who actually walks the walk and talks the talk, as they say. So somebody who really experienced and applied what they're suggesting. So I've done and still do. I mean, I love to be an entrepreneur and get into different kind of businesses or deals and so on. And I'm a writer as well. So, and a mother of three. I mentioned it just before we started talking.
You are busy, I'll tell you that. I mean, weren't you inspired? Wasn't it you one of your mentors is Brian Tracy, right?
It started that way. Yes, when I immigrated, as you mentioned, I became a refugee from Soviet Union at the time. When I left, it was still Soviet Union, and I was a Jewish refugee. I had no idea the wall would come down and things would change so dramatically. So when I left with my parents, I was still a child. I thought I would never see my friends, the rest of my family. We had to leave everything behind. So that was really hard. Nobody spoke the language. And because of the mindset, Soviet or Russian mindset, and American mindset are like two opposite spectrums, to be honest. I felt really lost. And I lost my sense of purpose, even I think my sense of identity. I didn't know how to fit in, who I was. And that was difficult. And I started looking for ways to help myself to find that purpose. And Brian Tracy was Anthony Robbins and Brian Tracy, the first people that I actually got inspired by, and I listened to a lot of their, you know, audio tapes at the time, those cassettes. That was
Oh, sure.
yes. And the most important is I didn't just listen. I've always been a very good student, and so I did what they said to do. I applied what I was learning. I was doing my homework. I was actually, doing what I was supposed to be doing, and it makes a big difference. Especially in today's world of information overload, there's too much information, and it can get too much. So I think it's important to be very clear as to what it is. What is your goal? What do you want to learn? What do you want to achieve and accomplish? And once you get that information, to actually apply it. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time and money and effort. So that's very important. And the books that I have written, I have a series of books under the umbrella of the 1 Minute Coach system. And I'm sorry if I'm jumping a little bit. Maybe you were going to ask.
No, it's fine. I mean, I want to talk about all this stuff because I mean, your accomplishments are incredible. Notwithstanding anything, from obviously where you came from and your backstory. But I'll dive into that. I mean, I want to know, what was it like, if you don't mind sharing, what was it like sort of growing up in the former Soviet Union? And I think you came over here when you were 17 years old, with your family, with basically nothing. Tell me a little bit about that story. What was that like growing up there?
Growing up in the Soviet Union, the childhood in the Soviet Union is actually very good because the education is free. All the extracurricular activities are free. And for somebody who loves learning, like I've always, I think I'm lucky to be born, with this hunger for learning. And so for me personally, it was just paradise because I did so many different things. Everything. I finished music school 5 years. I did a lot of dancing. I actually still compete in ballroom dancing because that's one of my passions. I did everything imaginable, and it was wonderful. It's because also because of the propaganda and the closed borders and the fact that we did not know any different. We didn't know that something could be better, that there could be more variety in supermarkets. I mean, we didn't have variety. Everybody had the same clothes, the same food, the same, everything was kind of.
It was also pre-internet too. I gotta imagine. I mean, everything was just kind of walled off.
Exactly. So we didn't know. I didn't know that anything could be, better or different. So we had that life, and it was nice. I mean, I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't want to leave. It was my mother. When my parents wanted a better future for me and my brother, they understood because they were older. They knew the future or the lack of opportunities, especially for Jewish people. And the thing that most people do not realize is in the former Soviet Union, being Jewish was not a religion. It's an atheist country, and religion was prohibited, and by law. So you couldn't practice religion. Judaism was nationality. So in the passports, they would put Jewish in the school log books next to the name, next to Jewish kids. They would put Jewish. I'm not sure exactly the purpose of it. Maybe. We couldn't go to certain universities. We couldn't have the same opportunities.
Just because you were Jewish?
Yes, because we were Jewish, yes. And me kind of coming to an age where I needed to go to university and start my life. My brother is younger. My mom wanted to get me out of there. So she found a way. 9 years, actually, she tried to get us out of there. So,
what did your parents do there for work? And
my father had a very high position. He was director of all the cultural parks in the big city where I lived. He was doing really well. My mom just did odd jobs because she was like mostly full-time mom. So it was really, really hard for everybody because, like I said, nobody spoke English. We had no skills to kind of immediately get a job there. And so they had to start from really bottom, cleaning and just doing jobs that you do when you don't speak the language and you don't know anything.
But when you were in Russia, in the Soviet Union, what did they do?
Well, in the Soviet Union, yes, my dad had, he was a director of cultural, like parks
Okay.
and nightclubs. Yeah, he managed all the parks in the city where I live, which is Kharkov. Was the fifth biggest city in the Soviet Union, so it was a big city, and he had a very high position. So for him, it was very difficult to kind of start from nothing.
Yeah, so talk about that. I mean, what? So that had to be. I mean, I can't even imagine what. I mean, just a mix of emotions and everything to a be able to do that and decide to do that. Obviously, they were doing that for it sounds like you and the family to have a better future. But man, that had to be so difficult. Really for everybody, but for them in particular, making that decision uh, to leave.
Yes, yes, and I give credit to my mom there, to be honest, because she really wanted to get me out, and especially my brother, because of the army, and at the time it was it was compulsory, and she didn't want him to go. And my dad had a bad day one day, like a really bad day at work, and he was down, and she said he was quite angry at the whole system. And my mom said, "Look, let's just go, let's just leave. Here, sign this on this line." And he did. And in the morning, he woke up and he said, "Where's those papers? This is like crazy. We're not doing this." And she said, "Sorry, I sent it already." So that was
But
too
was
late.
it that easy to leave? I mean, was it that easy?
No, 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 not at all. They had a in the 70s, late 70s, they opened the borders for Jewish people to immigrate to Israel, and then they closed it in 79, and they reopened it in 86 when Gorbachev came into power. And we were one of the first people, because my mom kept applying to leave, and they kept refusing. And every time she applied, her and my dad lost jobs, and because basically you become the enemy of the state because you want to run away, like you don't want to be the citizen, and people treat you like you're the enemy. So yeah, it was tough for everybody. It's true.
And now, did you go to from there? Did you then go to Israel, or where did you guys go?
No, no, everybody's there was the same system every time people left. Everybody went to Vienna, Austria first, and then to Rome, and then from there, because you become, how would you say, citizen without citizenship. Yeah, you have no citizenship, so you don't belong to any country. And then you go to the embassy and you like apply to different countries you want to go to. Most people go to Israel. We ended up in America because my mom had a sister there who managed to live in the 70s.
And where was that?
She was in Miami, and so she signed a paper that she would vouch for us, like she would support us if anything. So we got permission to go to America, and then it took 5 years to become citizens.
Wow. So you end up. So you leave the former Soviet Union at the time, Soviet Union. You go to Vienna. You go to Rome. You end up in Miami, and basically you everybody has to start from scratch. I mean, you didn't speak English, did you, at that time?
No, no, nobody spoke any English. And Yeah, I was 17, so I was because I didn't have a high school diploma. They sent me to a local high school, and when I went there, I had such a shock, Josh. You wouldn't believe it, because in the Soviet Union, everybody wears uniform. You're not allowed to have makeup on. Like it's really strict.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, you must have shown
and
up
then
that day like, what is
oh
going on
no,
here?
really, honestly, I was so traumatized. I said to my mom, I said, they're going to eat me alive here. I'm not going to survive one day.
Well,
I'm
and you
sure.
didn't understand, like you couldn't understand anybody, right? I mean,
No,
how did you
no. And at the time, so back in 87, there were very, very few immigrants. We were like the first wave. So nowadays, you go to Miami, I mean, there's so many Russian people. It's quite easy. But at the time, there weren't any Russian people. And eventually, when I went to college, I basically studied to get a GED, to get high school diploma, and I went to college. There were nobody who spoke Russian. I was like with the dictionary, the little book of dictionary, like translating every word, pointing my finger and saying, this is what I mean. But on the other hand, kind of being thrown in a deep end this way, you have to swim. If you want to survive, you just do what you have to do. I had to support myself from day one. I was the first one to get a job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs sometimes, studying.
What did you do? What were your jobs?
You know what? It's easier to say what I didn't do because if I could do something, I did it. First, I did like this work study at college, audiovisual department. So I was kind of rolling in those projectors, connecting them. That was my first thing. Then I did. Then I was like in some office doing mail, like passing mail to different offices. That's when I didn't speak much English. I was a dancer, so I danced with a group, and then I got a job at the restaurant as a dancer and a cocktail waitress. I was shop assistant. Yeah.
Lots of
Then I
things.
taught dance. Yeah, lots of things. But anything I could do, I was extra in movies and.
So, what did your parents do? What did your folks do for work?
They were cleaning. My dad was looking after this elderly lady, kind of doing everything for her. That was, like driving her, buying things for her, washing her, anything he could. While he was learning, working in the shop. My mom also like cleaning jobs, things like that.
I mean, so I know obviously it was a shock for you. You show up at this high school and it's completely different. What was it like for your parents? Were they just happy to be out of the Soviet Union and in America, or what was their initial reaction to when they got to Miami?
Well, it's like when you end up in this kind of situation, you don't really sit down and think, "Am I happy? Am I not happy?" You just try to survive. You look for ways to take care of your children, because they had, although I was looking after myself already, but they had my brother themselves to put on their feet. And so you just kind of focus on doing what needs to be done. And actually, my parents became very successful eventually in real estate and other businesses. And my brother as well became very successful. So they did the right thing. And at the end of the day, it made us stronger. Like anything that happens like this, I assume in anybody's life, if you keep your head high and you just do what you need to do, it makes you a stronger and better person. And for me, it was like, well, it made me less fearful. It made me realize that I can do a
Well, it
lot
gave you like a great
to survive.
perspective, right? A great perspective of when people when things in an entrepreneurial's life, things can be up and down from time to time. I'm sure you
Mhm.
have a totally different perspective on that from most entrepreneurs.
I don't get thrown off too quickly. If something happens, I don't get too, how should I say? I guess I
You
have
don't get
more tools.
discouraged. You probably don't get too discouraged, right? I mean, you just kind of
Yes,
keep
I
moving
get.
forward.
Yes, and that's really the whole point of struggles. Even though the society tries to show us that if you get over this hurdle, then life would be wonderful. Over this, life would be wonderful. But it's not like this. Life is really about struggles because that's what makes us grow and learn and become better and improve. I worked as a coach for 15 years, and I always ask, as part of my program, I ask this question: name 2 peak experiences in your life. That's part of my values work. And I said, especially to women, I say, besides giving birth to your child, because that's pretty obvious. But you know what? Every single time, it's incredible. Every single time, people share with me obstacles that they overcome, the most difficult obstacles or hurdles that they have to overcome, and then when they come out on top, this feeling of euphoria, this feeling of wow, I did it. Like I could do it. I can do it. And that's what the peak moments are in life. It's not about just sitting and enjoying, and I'm not saying you shouldn't strive to have a great life, but you have to understand that when struggles come, it's just part of life. You have to accept it and say, okay, this is happening. why is it happening? What can I do about it? Just not lose your head about it, or not think that you did something wrong, or that you go into this guilt mode, or try start telling yourself off. This inner conversation of how could I do this? How could I get myself into this? I made a mistake. I'm so stupid. This doesn't do anything good. This actually just puts you in this downward spiral.
Well, the thing is, I mean, most entrepreneurs, can relate to this, is that, very driven people, right? And so if you're a driven person by nature, which means you're always striving for more, striving for better, striving to improve, I mean, you're going to hit struggles. You're going to hit walls. You're going to hit things where,
Absolutely.
you make a decision and maybe you had all the best information, but it just didn't work out. Well, that's just all part of the process. That's just all part of the nature of being an entrepreneur. What was your first entrepreneurial business?
I was just going to add, like, if you have made a mistake, or if you do feel like you fail, you should actually be proud of yourself, because that means you tried to do something. You're not like other people sitting just too scared to make a move. You've done something. Okay, maybe it didn't work out, but give yourself a pat on the back and say, okay, I tried, it didn't work. Let's try something different. I think that's important to.
Well, I always say too, it's not even a failure unless you're out of the game, right? I mean, if you're thinking of the entrepreneurial world as a big game, it's like if you failed in a way that you can't get another at bat or can't give another try, then that's certainly not good. But failing to move forward is a necessary part of the process, and very often it's the failures that then catapult people to their biggest successes. I mean, you see that a lot.
It's not, yeah, I would say always, not even very often, but definitely, yes, it does that. Going back to your question, my first one, I can't quite remember right now. Let me go backwards, yeah, like it's easier to remember.
Oh, sure.
My last one, was, where I live, south of Spain. I spend most of my time here. There's a huge Russian community here, and we have these big supermarkets, and I'm not sure actually if in America, maybe in cities, in big cities where there's a lot of international people, but do you have in big supermarkets these international sections, like all Chinese food or all Indian food or yes, British food, things like that? Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So yes, here as well we have this, and one day. I noticed, I was with my partner, that they didn't have a Russian section, and we decided, well, actually, he said to me, there is no Russian section. I said, how weird, so many Russian people, and they're the one with money. and he said, well, somebody should put it there. I'm like, definitely somebody should put it there. And he goes, why don't we put it there? I'm like, okay, why don't we put it there? And neither of us had any actually experience with food industry or import, export, and distribution, anything like that. I've been writing, coaching, and so on. And he was in investment banking. So I just kind of said, yeah, fine, because that's my personality. I don't shoot anybody down. If somebody has an idea, I'm like, why not?
Well, you crossed off like one of the most important parts of starting a business is you have to find that there's a need. So obviously you're looking at the store going, there's no section for Russian food, and there's all these Russian people with money who obviously want to go buy the food. So let's go make that happen.
Yes, and also not having these doubts or fears, like, what do I know about this? How, it's not even my country, things like that, nothing like that. So the next morning, he actually went and spoke to the manager. And I was in my yoga class, and then he came to see me, and he goes, tomorrow we have a meeting with the top, with the national manager of the biggest supermarket chain in Spain, because he just happens to be here, and they've been looking for somebody who imports Russian food, and we have a meeting with them. And I said, okay, please give them a call. Tell them we'll meet them in 48 hours, because 24 is not quite enough. And they said, okay. And so we spent the 48 hours. We just went to, it was a little Russian store, and we just took pictures of the different foods that I thought would be most important. We made the catalogs, we registered the website. Oh, they asked him, what is the name of the company? And he goes, Moscow. And then he's like, delicatessen. He just made it up on the spot. So, so it was really lucky that actually it wasn't a registered company. So we sent out like immediately the registration for the company, for the business, and did everything, kind of put everything together in this 48 hours, took some samples, went to the meeting, spoke about it like we've done it for the last 20 years. They said, okay, this is great, come to Madrid, which is the capital, and presented to all our managers of departments in 2 weeks. It's like, okay, no problem. So we moved really, really quickly. And because we did not know how business works in Spain, apparently it's super slow and there's a lot of bureaucracy. But we were like so optimistic, like, yes, we want to have the Russian food for New Year. That's Christmas time. New Year is in 2 weeks. And we're like, yes, we want to have it on shelves for New Year because that's when Russians buy. And it usually takes a year or 2 years to actually get anything on the shelves in that supermarket. But in 3 weeks, we had everything on the shelves.
Where'd you order from? So, I mean, obviously you're finding through a distributorship or something.
Yes, we found the warehouse in another part of Spain, and then eventually once we got into the business, obviously we started looking into it deeper and talking to people. We found distributors in Germany, in the Baltics, and then Ukraine and Russia, and it grew quite quickly. We got other supermarket chains because we thought it was a great idea, and so that was the last business we
So
launched.
is that still going today?
Well, yes, not with me because I left and I wanted to go back to writing and coaching, and I wrote my new book because it's more my thing.
So when did you realize? So it's so interesting to me because you where do you think you found your passion for business, for entrepreneurs, for coaching, for that sort of thing in the business realm? When did you realize that you had a passion for that and wanted to dive into that?
I think business in general, it's creating something that wasn't there before, and it's exciting. Creating something that wasn't there before. It's the same whether you write a book or whether you put this Russian food on the shelves. And it's all about you making a difference, you're creating value, and it's also you creating. I think I love to create, and I enjoy challenges. Sometimes it gets too much, like with everybody else. You get a little bit overwhelmed. Then you kind of step back and just breathe, take a nap, just regroup, and but that's what makes life exciting.
Well, and so now, so you said some of your influences were Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy, and so did you attend some of their seminars or just read their books and tapes and all that?
Totally. Josh, I was thinking, I realized just the other day, I said to my daughter, I said, you know what? I just realized there hasn't been a moment in my life when I wasn't doing some kind of course or learning something or getting some certificate or diploma. I went back, I got my master's 2 years ago, I went back. I was doing my master's and I was doing an MBA. Then when I got pregnant with the third child, I kind of had to take a break, and then I decided I'd go back and finish it. But I got my master's in higher education at the end because I was teaching at the university. I love to teach.
Well, and that translates very well. I mean, that translates very well into your coaching, right? I mean, because your coaching is interesting because you're teaching, but you're helping people discover things within themselves, right?
Yes, for a very, very long time, I did not know what to dedicate my life to, what was my calling, so to speak. And to be honest, I was so envious of people who knew, like they knew what they wanted since they were children or young adults. Like, for example, did you always know who you wanted to be or what you wanted to do?
No, not really. I mean, I grew up, I'm an attorney and I grew up in a family where, my father's a lawyer and I've got some relatives who are lawyers. So I kind of grew up around it. So, I mean, there was a certain element of, I had thoughts of, what would that be like? What would that profession be like? And then at a certain point, when I was getting ready to go to college, I thought, well, at some point, I might go to law school. But I I really didn't know
Okay.
until I graduated from college and I was working for a few years, and was just much like reading a lot of different books, looking into a lot of different things. So I was working throughout the whole time, and I thought, maybe I should go to law school. But even when I went to law school, I didn't know that I was going to do franchise work.
Mhm.
I just thought, yeah, I think I'd like to go to law school because I think that will help me in a business capacity. So I didn't really know, and I was kind of the same way you were, which is, I was a little bit envious of the people who
Mm.
kind of knew. I mean, when I went to law school, I had I was what they called a non-traditional student because I was basically 26 when I went to law school, whereas most
Mm.
of the law students were right out of college going to law school. So I felt a little bit behind the curve. But it's just like what you're talking about, which you just kind of take one step at a time, right?
Yeah, no, that's leading me into coaching because, like I said, for a long time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kind of tried to do everything to see maybe there is something I would actually get passionate about. Uh, and then when I was doing my MBA and I was focusing on leadership, that was back in 2003, I think. And they introduced coaching at the time, and we had to learn coaching at the university and coach each other. And I thought, wow, this is incredible, such an amazing tool and so effective. And I like the fact that unlike psychology, it focuses on the present and the future and on building on your strength and not necessarily kind of going to your past and trying to dig to see what's wrong with you. So, I found it really, really effective. And at the time, I was writing training programs for corporations. And I suggested to the company, I said, we need to introduce coaching, because I thought it was amazing. And that's when I started coaching. And then I realized that's actually what I'm passionate about. But because I didn't know coaching even existed when I was in my early 20s, this is what's so interesting about life. There's some things that actually is your calling or your passion, but you haven't gotten to that stage yet. So it's very important not to get discouraged and to believe that only it will come when the time is right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you have to, there's a certain intuition into it or a certain belief that you're heading down the right road, and then that's ultimately going to lead
Hmm.
to a better decision. My wife's actually, it's interesting. My wife's actually a coach, and she became a certified coach before I had ever even heard of what a coach was. And this was back in probably 2003,
Hmm.
2004,
Hmm.
somewhere
It
like
was
that. So
very new at the time.
oh, it's very, very new. And now you hear it all the time. But I have so much respect for the coaching field. And then, obviously with you have developed it. You developed a system called the 1 Minute Coach educational system. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, yes, very briefly, because I was doing a lot of trainings and seminars, and I would notice that people would come with really good intentions to learn, to get better, to grow, to apply what they learn. They spend money, they invest their time, and then what happens most of the time that people go back to their day-to-day life. They drag into their day-to-day problems, and most of the things they learn, unfortunately, do not get applied. So I was looking for a way to help with that, to to change that. So for all the participants of my workshops, I started sending daily, this really short, because everybody is busy, they have the work to do, but just little reminders of what we learned and exactly what you can do with it, like action steps. So very short. I called it the 1 minute coach, like little messages. I didn't want it to take more than a minute. Just a reminder. Remember, this is what you wanted to do. This is, how you can do this, and that's it. And then people started forwarding it to their friends. It became a newsletter. And after about 2 years, people started saying to me, look, this is, I will love your messages. We'll print them out, put them in a folder. But now we cannot find what we're looking for. Can you just put it in a book? and and that's how my first book came about. I never intended to be a writer. I actually majored in math, in college.
What was the title of your first book?
My first book called is The 1 Minute Coach: Change Your Life 1 Minute at a Time.
And so, how long ago did you publish? Was that
That
published?
that actually came out the same month my son was born, so I know exactly when it came out. It was back in 2007, April 2007. And the way the book is written, I use accelerated learning techniques. I'm a certified trainer in accelerated learning techniques, which is a skill of learning how to learn. And it works with this whole brain learning. So it makes learning as easy and effective as possible. So what I do is every chapter is a minute, like I said. And the way it's written is that the left side, which corresponds to the left side of the brain, is the information that they want to share. The right side, which is the right side of the brain, which has it's more visual, it's more like this whole picture. It has an image and action steps. So it's quite, it's easy to follow. It's entertaining because I got this really nice images that help you remember like immediately what you just read, what you learned. And I think action steps are very important because just makes it so easy. Okay, you just read something, but what do you do with that? So I tell you, okay, this is what you can do with that. And a lot of people use it as a reference guide. They just hold the book and think about something that's happening in their life, open it on any page, and it's like a message for that day that helps them, maybe gives them a new perspective, reminds them of something that maybe they've forgotten. It's
What a great moment. I mean, what a great moment in your life, right? I mean, to come here, to immigrate here from the Soviet Union, not know how to speak English at the time, and then now come full circle, and now you're writing a book, you're publishing a book on how to help other people here in their lives. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
well, people are people regardless of where they come from and where they live. I've lived in 7 different countries, and I worked with people from all kinds of backgrounds. And everybody has a story. Everybody have struggled. Everybody have something to teach, because they've learned so much on their way. And I love to learn from others. You know, it's I just find people fascinating. I like people. I like to listen to them, and I'm sure you do too. This is why you interview people.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I love hearing other people's stories. I'm always inspired by it, and I think that I love hearing where people have come from, what they're doing, how they've the road that they've traveled, and certainly yours is most interesting that I've had on my show, and I've had over 200 episodes. So it's incredible. From the coaching, right? So from the book and the coaching, are you working with individuals, or do you do this through groups, through webinars, through a combination of everything? Are you working individually with people?
Yes, different ways, group coaching, webinars. If you go, I mean, I'm sure you would ask me at the end, but if you go to my website, which is mashamalka.com, you will see what I offer. Individually, I love working individually with people, but I also find working groups quite effective in a different way.
Well, because I mean, there's so much to talk with you about, and I know we've got only a few minutes left. But so I want to highlight your most recent book, "The 1 Minute Coach to Mastering Your Emotion." Tell me about it.
Yes, and the subtitle is A Step-by-Step Guide to Feeling Good on a Regular Basis. And basically, this is, when I started writing my second book, I actually started writing on decision making because my belief is that everything we experience in life has to do with the decisions that we make. And if we make better quality decisions, we enjoy better quality life. But then midway through the book, the topic of emotions came up, and suddenly I thought maybe that would be a better topic. And so I sent out a questionnaire to people of different ages and backgrounds. And one of the answers really, it came from a 19-year-old boy actually. And he said to me, if I can master my emotions, I will make much better quality decisions. And so, yes, I would prefer to read the book about emotions. And so I went and rewrote the book. And it's absolutely true. I think if we stop being scared of emotions and stop being slaves to our emotions and actually learn how to use them, master them, it totally changes how we experience life. And that's what most people strive for. They want to have a better quality, better experience, enjoy life on a different level. So my book focuses on first understanding your emotions. Then I talk about specific emotions. I call them feel good emotions and feel bad emotions because they're all important. I don't call them positive or negative. All emotions are important. And then I give specific tools on how to release those emotions we don't really want to experience anymore, and how to create the kind of emotions we want to experience on a regular basis.
Well, I think that's fascinating and I think really applicable for, frankly, a lot of people in franchising, right? I mean, a lot of people who are running businesses or running a franchise system. I mean, there's all sorts of emotions that come into day-to-day decisions, and even strategic decisions, for the long term. And, I generally find that people they increase their chances of making a mistake when they're not clear-headed about a decision. And I think part of getting clear-headed about a decision is taking the emotion out of it and being able to deal with facts, as they arise and as they are learned and as they become known, so that you can take a clear, objective view of what situation presents, and you're going to have a better chance to make a better decision than you would if there's a lot of emotion involved in it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And if I could give one advice regarding emotions, I would say that it's important to recognize that every single thing that happens to us, everything that happens to us is neutral until you give it meaning. Everything that happens to you is neutral until you give it meaning. You gotta think about it maybe for a moment, but it's true because the same thing can happen to a group of people. Everybody would react differently because
Yeah.
everybody give their own meaning to what is happening. And if you understand that, if you understand that your emotion is triggered by something, that your previous experience. Every emotion has to do with your previous experience, and it's just a trigger. And it's a trigger that you can control if you separate yourself. There's you, and there is an emotion. An emotion is not who you are. And when you separate yourself from an emotion, you can learn how to master it. But if you can just remember these two things, you're not your emotion, and everything that happens to you is neutral until you give it meaning. That already would be very helpful.
Well, I think that's great. I think that's really, I've never thought of it that way, frankly. But I think that could be applied to many situations where, a lot of times emotions are really at the core of what causes people to get into disputes, that causes people to have all sorts of problems. Where if you think about it, if you can take a step back from it a little bit and then not only think about where that emotion is coming from, but how you're going to handle it or deal with a particular situation, I think that can be instrumental in taking control over it, right? And handling it the way that you want. And from in a business context too, when you're dealing with difficult situations, being able to again look at it objectively, I think is really, really important. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, do they mashamalka.com? Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Mashamalka.com, yes, is my website. If somebody, I mean, I can give my email as well.
Oh, sure, if you
If
like.
Yeah, yeah, for just for your listeners, I don't know why I decided to do this, but I don't usually give
Well, then don't give it.
email
You don't
address.
have to give it.
But no, I will, because if it came to my mind, that means I should do it. It's quite easy. It's Masha, which is Masha, at Masha Malka, MashaMalka.com. Masha at mashamalka.com.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for about an hour longer, to kind of go over everything. And there's really a lot of questions I have that I haven't gotten to. But I want to tell you that it's really been an honor to have you on the show. I mean, I think your story and what you've done with your life, the life you've created, is incredible. And I know it's inspiring to me I mean, when I first learned about your story, when you reached out, I thought, wow, this is incredible, and I couldn't wait to share this with other people. So, thank you for that. I know you've got bigger and better things you're doing as well, but man, you've already accomplished so much in your life. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. That's been an honor to be on your show, and I really enjoyed speaking to you.
Absolutely. So I look forward to staying in touch, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit with my audience. I know they really appreciate it as well.
Thank you, Josh, and good luck to everybody with whatever you're doing.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.